All right, and we're back. And it's COMP2068 in the winter 2016 semester here at Georgian. It's week 9, part 2. And we're going to follow a bit of a walkthrough. I have it up on Blackboard, but for those people who don't know what it is, it's this link right here. It's mherman.org blog 2015, so back in January 31st. What it does is it talks about this, how to use authentication with Passport and Express 4. Now we've been using Express 4 anyway, because if you actually use your Express generator, it is Express 4, right? But in order for us to make sure that it is, let's please follow these examples. So these are the things we're going to need. Express, they use version 4.11.1, Mongoose at 4.4.1, and so on. You don't have to use these versions. The new versions work just fine. Okay. So here's what you need to do. You need to do a brand new npm install -g express-generator at 4, where it says at 4 means with Express 4. You still will get that anyway, even if you don't use this at 4. So let's do that. So I'm going to go up into my my thing here, and I'm going to shut down my Mongo lab, and I'm going to clear, and I'm going to kind of go out to the desktop, and I'm going to create a new site on my desktop here. So let's go up on, actually I'll do it here in COMP2068. We'll make a new one, and we'll call this thing make directory, and we'll call this kind of Express. I'm trying to think of what I want to call this. Mongoose local Passport local Mongoose. There we go. We'll call it, but we can't call it that because it'll mess up. So we'll say pass local Mongoose. You know, something like that. Pass local Mongoose. Pass local Mong, right? Pass local Mong. And then that's what we'll call it. So pd pass local Mong. There we go. And in here is where I'm going to call my app. Now again, it tells me to do an npm install -g express-generator at 4. That's what it asks us to do. And what this is going to do is going to take the latest Express generator at version 4 and load it in. I'll just do it again with you guys, right? It's not a big deal for me. I don't care. So this is what you'll get. You'll get like a version 4.13.1. So if you've done that properly, that's your latest version. By the way, it doesn't matter. It won't matter if you do it like this or whether we use the other one. It'll be the same, but we're going to follow the tutorial here, and that's why we're doing it together. Okay, next. Let's keep following this walkthrough, right? Let me just kill some of these other things here so we don't totally take up too much of my space while I do this kind of stuff. There's just so many things going on. SendGrid, we got, you know, Mongo and pass, you know, different things going on. And I don't want to kill, I want to kill this one, but this one can kind of still stay open because it's, you know, the one we're doing. All right, so here's the next piece. The next part is we want to do this Express. Now it says Passport Local Express 4. I'm not going to call it that. I'm just going to go, I'm right into my file here, and I'm just going to say Express, and I'm going to use EJS, so I'm going to use the -E option, and I'm going to convert Jade right in front of you to EJS, right? So we see how that works, how it pans out. So when I do that, it's going to kind of drag and drop all my modules. This is cool. We've got our project structure in this scaffold, right? All we do when we install Express is we use the scaffold. But I want to do an npm install, right, in order for me to get all that going. So npm install, clickety-clack. Now here we're not going to use TypeScript, but I'm going to use the TypeScript definition library to help me get some code hinting. So no TypeScript, but with some code hinting. Let's see how I can do that. Remember, we did this before one time. I'm going to clear. And I know what I have, right? If I look at their modules, they have these modules, right? I know that they're going to have body parser, connect flash. We're going to have some of this stuff in there as well. I'm going to do some of this installation now in the npm style. I'm not going to install all this stuff. I'm just going to tell you what to put in and what not to put in. Don't put in shy. We're not going to do any testing piece to it. We're going to stop at the testing piece. We don't have time for that for testing, but we're going to put in this. So we're going to say npm install connect-flash, right? -- save. So we'll do that one. That's kind of in there now, right? We'll also do express session, this one, right? So we're going to say npm install press, because we need that one. Remember we saw in the video, session, right? And it's minus save. That's done, right? Clear that one up. And we're going to say npm install, right? Mongoose. We need that one too. We can't do it without mongoose minus save. So we don't have mongoose yet. Oh, I love that one. How about mogoose, right? npm install mongoose minus save. I love when I mistype. It's good. Clear. All right, here's the next ones. I want you to put all these three together in a row, right? So I don't care about Mocha. Don't install Mocha. Don't install should. These are just testing tools, all right, for now. So npm install passport, and we'll say passport dash local. We'll do them all at once. And we'll go passport dash local. Hold on, it's going to be cut off here. Dash mongoose minus save. That's all of them all together at once. So passport local mongoose. All right, so you should have all those now, all those modules in place. And if I do an ls, I have those modules. I have node modules, views, bin, and all that kind of stuff kind of created. Let's drag and drop it into my code here, just really quickly. So I'm just going to go into my desktop. Just bear with me while I do this. Kill this out. And I'm going to go into my COMP2068, and I'm going to look at this new thing I created, this pass local mong. Almost sounds like from some other country. And just drag it in there, right? So here's our module, pass local mong. I've got everything in there. Here's my package.json file that I have. You should have something similar. Now, if you had Jade, if you want to try out Jade, it's perfectly a good time to try that out. It's not going to hurt you. We're not going to do this. What I am going to do is I'm going to create a git ignore file, and one change I'm going to make is I'm going to share this up on GitHub with you guys, because it makes no sense that I would just do this and then not share it so you can check with what I'm doing, right? If mine works and yours doesn't. So let's do that. I'm going to make a new. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to click on initialize Git repository, and I'm going to add. All right. Wait, Tom. I'm going to go new file, .git ignore. I'm going to include those. Bower underscore components. Not going to put any of those in. If I put anything with Bower, probably won't. But you know, .c9 for Cloud9, and definitely nothing with the Mac BS underscore store. I don't want any of those to be in there. Save. That should reduce it down to 9. From thousands down to 9. There we go. Got all these 9 files that I'm uploading. Those are all the other ones only ones that are up there. And I'm going to click this for changes, and I'm going to say initial commits, and click my check mark. And now I can't push, right? I can't push yet because I don't have a repository, which I'm going to create. I'm going to go up on GitHub under Georgian. We're going to make a new repository, and we're just going to call it, for us, COMP2068 dash, what do they call it? Pass local mong. Pass local mong. And then create repository. Yay. And I'm going to take this stuff here, these 2 little files here. And what I want to do is I already have it open. Here's my pass local mong, and just put them, kind of copy them in and press enter. That should kind of upload everything to GitHub for you. So if you're really slow and you couldn't do what I did, it's up there for you. You can always look and download that completed version. You still have to do an npm install though. Okay, so we've got up on GitHub. Here it is, and we're ready to go. For the most part, we're ready. I'm not going to do TypeScript, but I want to use TSD to give us code hinting, because I think it's a helpful thing. It's not going to hurt us. It's going to help us. How do I do that with TypeScript to give us code hinting? Well, I need to install the TypeScript modules for my package.json file. So here's my package.json file, and here's my terminal. And what I want to do is I want to match up some of these modules that I'm going to be using. So let's start trying this out. So I'm going to say tsd install. Now again, you have to have tsd installed on your desktop, or sorry, on your global to make it work. So I'm going to say body-parser. Right? So body parser is there. Yeah. Minus save. Probably won't need it, but just in case I want body parser, there it is. Right. And let's do the next part. I'll say tsd install connect-flash minus my save. Right? I'll just do it in order. Here, tsd install cookie parser, cookie-parser minus my save. I'm adding the TypeScript configuration files without TypeScript. You can do this too, right? As long as you know how. We know how because we've been doing it up until now. Clear. tsd install. Sorry, debug minus save. Yeah, we got debug too. tsd install. How about EJS minus save for EJS? Is that possible? Yeah. tsd install express minus save. Yeah. Cool. Clear. tsd install express dash session minus save. Cool. Express sessions in there too. tsd install mongoose minus save. tsd install Morgan. I think this might fail. Minus save. One of them fails. Oh, that one worked. tsd install passport local. Let's do a bunch of them. Passport local minus save. Passport local are in. And then tsd install. This one fails. Passport, look at passport dash local dash mongoose minus save. It's going to go meh. Doesn't work. Why? It's a new module, fairly new. No one's created a type definition for it yet. How about serve favicon? That's a pain in the ass, right? tsd install. Why not? Serve dash favicon minus save. Oops. Yeah, sure, they have that one too. Okay, so for the most part, most of the modules are there, and we have our core modules in play. Oh, wow. Why did I do all that stuff? Right? And we did a little bit of work there to do that. Notice that now we have 18 new files. These are all of our 18 files we put in there. And they're TSD files that I'm using for Mongoose and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Right? One thing I know I don't want to have is I want to have nothing to do with typings up online. Now, you can do it personally for yourself. But me, when I put stuff on when I really work in the real world, I don't put my typings up online. There's no point. It's like putting node modules or Bower components, right? So I don't do that. I know what I'm required. So I'm going to put that in my gitignore file. So gitignore, I'm going to put in anything in typings, I'm going to ignore. Right? Save. 2 files. The 2 files are my tsd.json file and my gitignore files got updated. So I'm going to say added typings to assist with code hinting. That's what I want. Push, right? So that's all I've done. You can certainly go and do a tsd install once you download your modules. If you have a tsd.json file, which you would, right? So here's my tsd.json file. These are all the modules you can go to, and once you have this, you can go up online and do a tsd install, download this module, and if you do a tsd install, everything's done. By the way, I'd probably build that into Gulp. If I was going to do it, if I was going to do some automation and use Gulp here, I would build in Gulp, so when I press Gulp, I would actually not just run my module, but it would also do this for the first time. I would do all my npm install, it would do this kind of stuff, everything at once, right? So I wouldn't have to do any of that again. Automation. Okay, cool. So what does this all do for me, right? So if I go back to my app.js, right, and if I start typing something like app, right, so if I go app dot, I start getting some things here, like for example, app next, rec, res, stuff. I get some code hinting. This is right from my TSD definition libraries, right? Without doing anything, without making it a JavaScript file whatsoever. That's cool. That's what I want to do, right? That's right in my app.js. So it gives me a little bit of code hinting. It's not perfect, but if I hover over stuff, it also gives me the, some of the stuff we know about the app, right? But it also gives me, like, unless I want to, unless I make it a TypeScript file, it doesn't have to be. Okay. Okay, so this is the file we're working on next. Let's go back to that if you're following the example here, we've done all this and a little bit extra, right? And I did an npm install already, and now we want to test it. We're going to do a node /bin www, or if you're like me, you're probably going to do something like nodemon, right? So I'm going to say nodemon and press enter. And if you do, it's going to show you that it's going to run node, and I can go back up on localhost here to check it. So I'm going to go to localhost at 3000, and I should see the Express. Welcome to Express. That's what you guys should see now too. All right, so we've set up our little option to make it work. Let's continue following this to make it to the next piece. Okay, so I need to run Mongo locally in order for me to test with. And what I'm going to do here is, if you're a Mac user, then you have to do sudo mongod, right? And that way your Mongo server is running in the background, right? And it says it's already running for me. So if I go Mongo, I should be able to get in there, right? I want you to run mongod, the server, if you're a user. If I'm not logged in, see, I'm already logged into Mongo. That's why it's making me run. It's saying it's incorrect. You don't need to do that. You're already in. But for you guys, for Windows users, run your Mongo server, right? Because we're going to use Mongo locally right now. Okay, so check this out. Okay, and if I want to show you this, I want to say something like show DBS. I can show that I'm running. Otherwise, I won't be able to do this. Right? So my Mongo is running, and I've got my little local Mongo that I can check in the background. Okay, cool. So I've done that. And what I want to do now is I want to start making the following changes. So if I look at my app.js, these are the three things I'm going to load in. Take a look. I've got my var mongoose is equal to require mongoose, and I want to copy these things, and they're going to go right after body parser. So right after body parser, that's where this stuff is going to go. So I'm going to take these three files, or these three lines. I'm going to go back to my app.js, and right after body parser, right here on line 7, I'm going to put those in and make a space. Save. All right, so that's one. I'm not making any changes yet. The next one I want to do is, once I've done the body parser stuff, right? So nothing else has really changed. We're going to go through this to make sure there's nothing else missing. So we've got routes and users, and we've got my path join. And notice that it says view engine Jade. That's different because mine's using EJS. But right after our cookie parser, there's this piece here that uses the express session. I'm going to take it as is up until passport session. So these lines right here, app use, require express session, and then all the way down to passport initialize passport session. Copy those. It's going to go right after cookie parser. So I'm going to go right after cookie parser, and between cookie parser and the public path join, this piece. So that's the line, for my lines 25 and 26. And put those in like this, and save. Okay, that's what this does. So I've got my express and passport, and it does passport. If I want to do passport initialized, by the way, if I was in that mood, and just because I have a TypeScript support, I can go passport dot, and if I do initialize, it'll pick it up. That's why I did this for us, just in case we have to type anything by hand. Okay, cool. One thing we noticed is on the video, they said that resave should be true, and save uninitialized should be false, right? So I'd like to do that. So let's make a change. So resave is true, and save uninitialized is false. All right. Let's go to the next piece. So look, it says app.use /routes, and it has that in there. So it goes routes, and it also has users. We're not going to use the users right now. We're going to leave it as is. There's no point monkeying with it. It's cool. One thing to note is that as we go forward, you see that there's a passport config piece that's going to fail at first, right? I'm going to take this piece the way it is, this account require, right, piece right here, and copy it and put it right underneath the app.use routes. So underneath this, between line 37 and 38. This is important. Believe it or not, the order here is important. Here's where we do this serialize, deserialize. And this right here is where we use this local strategy we talked about here. Passport use, local strategy, account.authenticate. Okay. Now we don't have a models account yet, but we will. We're going to put a models together, like we showed you before. Remember, we know what models is. Models is where Mongoose is going to use the models to kind of create a authentication service, or a user, if you will. They just call it account instead of user. All right. We also need this connection string to our local Mongoose. Let's not call it passport local Mongoose Express 4. That's pretty darn long. I'm going to copy it first, but I'm going to change it to something else. So copy it. And right underneath here, before our 404 error, I'm going to put that in and change our passport local Mongoose to something that says pass local Mong, right? Just so we know that it's going to be matching our file. So pass local Mong, so we can kind of identify what it is and save. So we've made all of our changes that we have to do. The error handling is not going to change. None of this is going to change. And we're going to go to the next piece of Mongoose. In order for us to do that, we need to set up a new models folder and an account.js file inside the models folder. So let's do that. So let's make a models folder. So here's models. And underneath that, we're going to make an account.js object, account.js. There it is. And now notice what it says here, var mongoose require mongoose. I want to start typing this out because I want you to understand what's happening here. So we're going to say var mongoose is equal to, you can also copy paste if you want, require mongoose. Okay, and the next piece is schema is equal to mongoose schema. So var schema, is it capitals? Yeah, they use a schema. Schema is equal to mongoose dot schema. See how it picks it up? Right? And now we're going to do something like this: passport local mongoose. So var passport local mongoose is equal to require, and this is where we do it: passport dash local dash mongoose. Right, if I'm not wrong, yeah. And that's all it has here. So far, so good. We haven't done anything different there. Now this is where I'm going to copy paste. So I'm going to grab this var account is equal to new schema. This is our account information, username, and password. Hey, if you use passport local mongoose, account username and password is included. You have nothing to do here. You don't have to even put this in. I don't have to include username and password. It's done for you. All right. And now I want to use this new piece. This is the new piece that you won't see in the older modules, account.plugin. And the account plugin, what it does is it says, take this schema, this mongoose schema, use the plugin module, and plug in passport local mongoose as a schema in order for us to make things go. Finally, we do a module.exports, right, where we have an account object. And we're going to export account, and it's going to be based on the account model we just created. So nothing we haven't seen before. This is all stuff that comes right from making our local model from before. This is what you should see right now. Again, all we're doing here is we're replicating what we see here, how model account.js, and if we go back to app.js, model account.js connects right here. Here's our models. We name it properly? Yeah, models and account. There's account right there. So remember, we don't put the JS in there. As long as we do a require, we don't need the account, the .js ending for it. Okay, we're getting there. So it says you may be wondering about password security, specifically salting and hashing the password. Fortunately, the passport local mongoose package automatically takes care of this salting and hashing the password for us. More on this further down. All right, so let's do a sanity check, and that means running the app again. And we've been doing that the whole time because NodeMon has been running in the background. That means that if I go back to Express and if I refresh, then we're still good. Right? If this runs, then you're so far, everything you put in is good. If you're at this point and it's not running, then you've copied and pasted or mistyped the wrong thing. For now, I think this is a great place. Every time they do a sanity check, I like to push up to GitHub. So let's refresh. And I'm going to go back to my GitHub. And I'm going to say I added an account model and added passport. Right? So I'm going to go here. And I'm going to go, these are the changes, added account model, or added passport and account model. Go, boom, push. So you can see what I've got if you don't have what I have somehow. So if you can't, if I'm going too fast for you, that's okay. You're still following the walkthrough anyway. You might be even ahead of me. Okay. So we've done the sanity check. We need to add these routes. And this is interesting. Notice that in the routes folder, we have an index.js file, which we always do. And that would be over here, our index.js file under routes. And we don't have a lot there right now, right? We have express, we have router, but we don't have passport or account. So let's grab these two things and put them in between express and router. So what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, make sure we have a reference to our passport module, and let's get a reference into our account module, right? And now we have a bunch of different things here. We have our regular, like our route, as well as registration from a rendering registration, and then actually posting to the registration page, and then rendering our login and posting to our login, doing our logout, and there's also a ping function, which I'm not going to include. I'm not going to include the ping function because that makes no sense. So I'm just going to grab all this instead of typing it all. There's a lot of typing, and just replace everything that's there up until module exports router with this stuff. Right, so that's all I've done. Now this can't work because I don't have any, I don't have my, when it does res render, res redirect will work, but res render register, I don't have a registration page yet, right? And I don't have a login or logout page or anything like that. I don't have any of that stuff. Up to here, I'm pretty good. Okay, fire up the server, navigate to ping. I didn't do this thing. I'm not going to do the ping pong thing. So I'm just going to say updated routes up here on GitHub. I'm going to say, just so that you guys can see what I've done, I've updated routes. And then do one of those and push. So you guys should have that up on GitHub. All I've done is I've added this one page, this index.js page. I've just updated the index.js page. Again, this is the same thing we've seen before. The only thing, if you notice, I'm passing in for my login a user object. Here's my user object with rec user. The fun is underway when we get to the Jade, because then that's some of hand bombing we're going to have to do, right? Here we go. Here's our hand bombing. There's our what Jade would look like for the template, right? Can't do this with EJS, right? So how do I convert Jade? Because you're going to see some stuff online. So here's the enrichment part of today, right? Not just the following along and doing the walkthrough. How do I do this this Jade, file with converting this to HTML? How do I do that? Well, look at the doc type. Doc type is HTML. We also have the header and the title and all that kind of stuff. We also have some meta tags and some links. Nothing that you haven't seen before, as well as a body tag and some jQuery and Bootstrap, right? So all the same stuff that we've seen before, right, that we can grab. And we're going to use the CDNs for this today as opposed to have some local files to make it speed up. All right, so how do I do that? So to translate this into action, I'm going to create a couple of folders. One of them is a partials folder. So I'm going to say new folder, partials, right? And inside my partials, I'm going to have a header and a footer like before. So a new file, so header.ejs. And underneath that, we're going to have a new file, which is footer.ejs. So header and a footer. In my header, I'm going to make this just I'm going to convert this from EJS for a second back to HTML. And I'm just going to start typing my shorthand, right? So I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to say doc type, right? It's HTML. And underneath that, I'm going to have an HTML piece. Underneath that, I'm going to have a head underneath and plus a body, head and a body, right? And in my head, I'm going to have a title, right? Just to kind of get things going, right? Because this is just it will take too long for me. And in my title, we're going to call this Pass Local Mong. Pass Local Mong, right? Just because. Sounds neat. It's like Death Raku, Okay. And then in here, we're going to do a meta tag, right? Where we're going to say character set is equal to UTF-8, right? These are all standard things we're going to have in there. And another meta tag where we have name is equal to viewport, and then content is equal to device, or sorry, width. I'll be okay. Tired. Width is equal to device dash width, and then initial dash scale is equal to 1. That's that character set and the two meta tags, standard meta tags. Here inside our links, we're going to have a couple of links. And notice that if I go back here, it says I want a regular style sheet and our link for our CDN for Bootstrap. So let's get that. So I'll say link, and the style sheet that we're going to put in here first is this. So /styles CSS. We're just going to grab that, and that actually exists inside of our public style sheets, styles.css. It's actually already there. I'm just hooking into it. All right, let's go back down where we were. I bumped up for whatever reason. Mongoose, anycheck, add roots, and we're here. There we go. We need to get this Bootstrap CDN. So I'm going to say Bootstrap CDN. Just going to type that in. CDN, I'll be okay. Bootstrap CDN, not Bootstrap China. And go here, and you can see that it has both the CDN. If I go to the different examples, they even have one for Jade. Damn it! But if I want to go to HTML, here's the one for HTML. I'm just going to grab this whole link here, copy, and go back into my code and put that in before my style.css. There you go. That's my Bootstrap CDN, right? For a regular Bootstrap. And before the body tag ends, and by the way, I might as well kind of put a little bit of comments in there, so I'll do the same thing I normally do. CSS section, right? And then on the bottom, I'm going to put in my JavaScript section, and we'll separate this out in a second. There we go. And what I want to put in for my my CDN is I definitely want to put my Bootstrap in there for JavaScript. So here's my JavaScript section. So I'm going to grab this script file and put that in there. But I also need the other one, which is my, notice that it has the really cool things, the cross-origin stuff so it'll work on Azure, right? Sometimes the problem is you use CDN and it'll fail on Azure, and because of this, because it's cross-origin. So please make sure you follow the links when you use CDN. So it has those two things, and I also need jQuery, because without jQuery CDN, then it's not going to work. So I'm going to say jQuery CDN. I need that before I have everything else. And now here it's not as clear where you get it from if you look at it, but if I right-click on the minified one, I can copy the link address as text, right? And now I can type it in manually, and this is where I kind of get into trouble, right? Where I kind of go script source and then is equal to, and there's my CDN, right? That's my CDN for jQuery. BigQuery, and here's my Bootstrap, right? So I've got those two things, but this doesn't really belong. This doesn't belong here. This is the header, right? This is the header, and this is the footer, right? That would be the footer. So just grab this footer and cut this out. I'm gonna go to my footer.ejs and put that in there, right? My footer. So I've got my partials, my header and my footer. That's my partials. And now I can add in my other files, like my index.ejs. I'm going to modify this one because I don't need any of this stuff now. So let's just kill this thing. But what I do need is something like this. So %include partials, and then header.ejs. And then on the bottom, I need %include partials footer.ejs. So I want to include those footer and header and footers. And now I can go back into the file to continue what I was doing. So I need I got this stuff done, this basic stuff, but I want to go into my index.jade And notice that it says extends layout. All that means is that the header and footer is already there. I've just done that work. I'm going to say this. If user, if I was to look at this and how to translate this into EJS, I need an if block and then an anchor tag, a break tag, and another anchor tag. Let's try that out. So it's like this. So I'm going to put an if block. So I'm going to make some space. So I'll say % if, and if you notice what it says, not user, right? And then I open and close parentheses. So the parentheses or the curly braces, and my curly braces I'm going to put in these little tags here, just to make sure that you see how this works. So I'm writing the EJS stuff, and then the anchor tag is just an anchor tag with an href of login, right? So I'm going to put an anchor tag. Let's move this from EJS now back to HTML for us to do that kind of work. So I'm going to say anchor tag with a href of login, and it's going to say login, right? And that's if the user exists. There's a break tag, and then an anchor tag again with or register. That's what it says. Login or register. There's login, register, and then it says register. And maybe we can say something like break or, this doesn't really have it there, but I'll put it in, or register, login or register. So it'll be like that. Now this, the other way was side by side. Now I'm going to make it one on top of the other. That's if there's no user, right? If, however, there's a user, then you are currently logged in as whoever the username is, right? So that's another if statement. So I'm going to do the same thing. We'll say if, however, if there is a user, right, then, again, see how I'm writing the EJS. I'm just taking the Jade and translating it, right? So, and then inside. So if there is a user, then what am I going to do? I have to make a paragraph tag that you're currently logged in as. So here's my paragraph tag. And then I'll just grab that text. So I'm not going to type. You're currently logged in as. And then what is it? And if you notice, it's user.username. Love it. Someone's always calling me. So user, so % equals to user.username. You need to use the % equals because we're accessing a value as opposed to a command like if user. Right, so that's what this is. You're currently logged in as whatever. And then ahref logout, right? So that's the next one underneath the paragraph tag. So ahref, and then we're just going to copy that logout information. Now, that's nice, but you know what? It's pretty ugly to be putting in here. We probably want some kind of div tag because we are using Bootstrap. So I'll put a in the container tag, right? And format. And that didn't quite work properly, but hey, what the hell? And we'll just undo that. That formatting, that's a really weird formatting. Let's go back to EJS, and then I'll format. Oh, formatting isn't available in EJS. It's okay. Maybe for the best. I'll format manually. How about that? There we are, and I know that this stuff is all, it should be all indented so you can see the way it works, right? Maybe even a BR tag between the two, because there's no BR tag. That means like it's going to be right on top of the other. And that means a break tag. Okay. We've created our first page, our index.ejs page, and we should probably test it out right now, just this one page. So in order for us to test this out, let's save the header, and we're going to go back out to this and refresh, and if everything runs well, you should see this. Log in or register, right? Login means if you're log in or register, that means you're not logged in. If I click one of these, it's going to give me a 404 right now. Failed to look up, right? Because there isn't a login anymore yet. All right, so we need to bake those ones in too. So we've got our index, and we need the other two that we've got in. And here's our login page, a little bit more involved, right? Let's type this away. And again, if you want to, you can use the Jade. If you want to do that, I'm going to convert it, and then I'll update everything online for you. All right, so this is cool. So this container means div container, right? That's what this means. I've already got that. and then it means h1 is a login page. So let's go back to that. So I'm going to copy my index.ejs, copy, and I'm going to paste it inside my views. So paste. There's no point having the same thing, and this is going to be our login script. So we're going to go rename login.ejs. There it is. Here's my login. And my login is going to have an h1 tag. I'm going to get rid of all this, right? But it's going to have an h1 tag that has, oh, sorry. Back to the HTML for a second, just so I can do my quick editing. H1 tag with login page, and then a paragraph tag with a class of lead that says something worthwhile here. So that's what it's going to say. So paragraph tag with a class of lead, and then say something worthwhile here. And then what we're going to have is a break tag. You can see I'm reading it, right? Break tag with a form, and the only difference is I don't care about the role right now. It's going to have an action of /login and a method of post. So form, right? And again, we're going to talk about different kinds of form. Is there a class for this one? Yeah, I didn't even add a class there for this one. So form with an action of post. Oh, sorry, that's a method. /login, and method is equal to post. That's what the method's going to be. Here's our form. And what we want to do is do a couple things. A form group, a div of the form group of, notice it's kind of neat how it translates for Jade. So if I go here, oops, form-group, div of the form group, and then an input with a form control. So input form control, let's grab that piece. Input with form control, there it is. So I've got a form group, and a text form control with an input. And the here's one thing we do need: type is text, name is username, name is username, name is equal to username, and placeholder, right? Placeholder is equal to username. There we go. So that's this piece done. And another form group. When I kind of go down here, just type it and press tab. And notice that I can do the same thing with this other input form control, but in this case it's password. So I'm just going to grab this whole input control here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to this, placed it, and instead of this one as being text, it's password, and the name is password. I don't have a label, might as well add that in label. And for username, and it'll be called username here. We'll do the same thing for our, just make it a little more fancy. And here's password for password. Just added that label in just to make it a little bit more fancy. There we go. Now I need a button and an MBS piece, a non-breaking space, which that is going to go underneath the button. So let's get this button here like this, button-default, and put it inside the form. You know what? I don't like a button-default. I wonder if they have a button-primary. I wonder if they have that button-primary. Oh no, they do have a button-primary. I'm jumping the gun. Default. Button-default, and type is equal to submit, which is the type I want. So type is equal to submit. That's a submit button. It's got to say submit. When you log in, kind of stuff. That's your login page. Actually, instead of submit, it should say log in, right? And now your non-breaking space underneath the button, and then next to it, you're going to have this href tag, another button with an href tag that takes you to cancel back to the page. So what this means is I want an a tag, right? And the a tag is going to have inside of it a button, right? Which is with this type of class, button primary. and it looks like this, right? And my href is going to go back to the root, and the button is going to be called cancel. So here's cancel. It's there. It's my login page is done. So again, it's not difficult to convert Jade into EJS if you don't like Jade, right? It just, you have to read everything to get going, right? So I just added in a label for the button, for everything, to make it look a little bit nicer. One thing I think we're missing we're missing something from a form perspective to outline the form, make it a bootstrap form. Am I missing a class for the form? Probably am. Let's take a look. So if I go to bootstrap, get bootstrap, and if I look at CSS, and if I look at forms here for a second, just to make sure that I have a good example of a form. It doesn't look like there's anything here. I need a form group, that's for sure, for everything else. I could put form inline, but that makes it like this, and that's not what I want. But I do want the rest of the stuff that I have in there. So I think we're doing pretty good in terms of everything that we got going on. Okay, let's go back to the example. So this is our example. We didn't do a registration. Registration looks almost identical. Huh? Oh. Sorry, I know I went a little quick, but we're running out of time, so I want to try and fit it in and test it before we go. Right? This is the biggest pain in the ass, guys and girls. Getting the login, register, and all that stuff working. You have to have forms for it all. You have to create pages, right? If you don't have pages, then none of it works, right? So, so that's one piece. Okay, let's go back, and we want to do the next piece, which is this register, but the register and the login are almost identical. So I'm just going to copy the register to the login, or login to the register, I mean. So I'm going to kind of go to login. So here's my, sorry, let's try this again. That's really weird. Let's close that off and open it up again. Yay, I don't know why they did that. Okay, so let's go into my login, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go into views, and I'm going to paste it, and here's my login one. I'm going to rename this thing register, if I'm not wrong. Register.ejs. The only thing that's different here, instead of a login page, it's a register page. That's the one thing that is different, register page. It says that's the same thing. Here's my same form control. It's still a post. My form group, it's still username and password, and it's still a submit button, and it's still a cancel button. It's exactly the same. So we're done. We're done. My registration page is over. All right. So, but instead of form action is login, form action is register. Okay, let me update that on GitHub for those people who aren't as fast as I am, can't follow along, or I'm just too annoying. So let me just go to added EJS pages for login register. So click and push. All right, so you guys should see that up online. So that, we have a completed app. Like right now, we've kind of gone through the walkthrough. And I wanted to go through it very quickly, and the reason for that is so that you have an example of authentication before next week, all right? Before next week. That's not what I wanted to bring up. I wanted to go here, and if you notice under our stuff, we can test, right? We can test it out. Now notice, once I've tested it out, this is it. Once we've gone to this point, we're done. So let's test it out, make sure that this is all good, and if I go back to my past local mong, and if I refresh, let's log in. It gives me my login page, right? So I can't log in because if I put in my username and password, so if I go Tom and whatever and press log in, it's going to just go unauthorized, right? So it's not going to let me in here, right? If I go back to my registration page, so I go to register and I put in something like Tom and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and press login, right? It's going to say I'm logged in as Tom, so I'm successful, right? Logged in as Tom.
Ignore me, I'm just doing it.
No problem. And then if I go back out, so if I go back to the main page, here's my main page. I'm logged in as Tom, right? Okay, so what about if I want to log out? Well, there's no link for that, but I can go something like log out, and it'll log me out, log me back out of here, right? So I'm not logged in anymore, right? So if I go back and log in, let's log in again. I can go Tom 1 2 3 4 5 and press log in, and it's going to log me in, right? And then again, I can put in a log out kind of thing to log out. It logs me out. So let's check Mongo to see what's going on here. So remember, I want to do a show DBS, right? And you can see how I have a bunch of local demos, but I have one that's called pass local mong, right? Pass local mong. That's my DB. So I'm going to say use pass local mong, and then I'm switched to pass local mong, right? And I'm going to say show collections. Let's look at our collections here. We should see an account collection. There's our accounts. And I'm going to say db.accounts, right, .find, and then pipe that into pretty. And when I do that, I see this. Arrgh! Take a look. I have my ID. I have my salt. Here's my hash. Here's my username. There's no password. So this is my actual user. This is my password, right? Good luck trying to rip that one, right? It's crazy. I really think the only thing that I would do differently with this module is I would love to hash my username as well, so that you can't see which one is which, right? But this is what it does, and we did this in about half an hour, right? So the challenge for you for next week is this, right? Here's your challenge for next week. I'm going to write a little lab, right, for you guys to do. Take what we know. Here's the challenge. Good luck, by the way, right? And I'm saying this in not in a facetious manner. I'm saying good luck as in it's a hard thing to do. I'm not actually. Let's not make it a lab. I'm challenging you. You know, just see if you're interested in doing it. If I make it a lab, then you guys are all going to get mad at me because none of you are going to be able to do it, right?
See it right now.
No, you're all going to get mad because none of you can do this. I'll tell you right now, it's going to be really hard to do, or maybe only a few of you can do it. But if you try and apply the same principles to already what we have, our Mongo demo, the one we already have online, I want to show you that it's not going to be easy to do, right? Because there's some piece parts to it that won't work, right? So we've done one piece, and I wanted to describe some of this. I mean, you have a lot of functionality here. But I want to show you that if you were to go here and try this out, it works. And you actually log in and log out. It actually does work. Any questions around Passport and what we did? Let's take a look at our stuff one more time before we leave for the day, right? I've already populated this up on GitHub if you were fast enough to follow along. That's okay. But with the main changes were we added this model account.js, which is just username and password. We really didn't need to. Here's the challenge. When I make my model more complete or complex, it doesn't provision for that. I have to look through my API documentation in order for me to change this, right? Because I want to adapt what we're doing here to our our model. If I use TypeScript, it'll complain. Okay, I guarantee you, it will complain. Because TypeScript doesn't know anything about Passport local mongoose. That's a little file that there is no type definition file. You can make your own. Good luck on that one, right? But there's no TypeScript definition library for that, which means we can't use TypeScript for any kind of code hinting whatsoever, right? And so we're left with an option of not using TypeScript at all for our account module, right? Or our user module, whatever we have. We already made a user module last week, and if I want to use the same user module to create our account, which what we worked on at the beginning of the day, right? We can't use the same way. We can't use the same way. So I'm going to come up with a solution for this by next week. I'll have a working model that I'm going to populate up online. So when you get your final project, you'll have everything you need to get rocking and rolling. Okay, questions around this stuff, anybody? So Passport, that's the way we combine Passport with Mongoose, right? We store everything with Mongoose in the Mongo database, right? And we use Passport to authenticate us, log us in, log us out, and protect pages. And that's it for this week. Take care. We'll see you next week.